Okay guys, so we're continuing on with some test correction. I just want to go over this question that's its own separate entity because you guys will see this a lot. Given these 2 points, 1, -4 and -4, 2, answer the following question. First off, when you're given 2 points, a lot of times you'll just be asked to find the slope. So finding the slope is going to be y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, so from here I'm just going to go x1, y1, x2, y2. And it doesn't really matter which one's x1 or y1. We just typically make sure that x1 and y1 go together. So here my slope is going to be 2 minus -4 over -4 minus 1. Positive 2 minus -4 is the same thing as adding the opposite, so flip change there, so that will be 6. -4 minus 1 is the same thing as saying -4 plus -1, so -6/5. So my slope is 6 over -5. You can also write it as -6/5. Other ways of writing it is just having that fraction bar and then the negative sign right next to it, and you get the same one. Either one of these will work. I'm going to go ahead and use this one for the rest of the example though. Write an equation in point slope form. So point slope form is y minus y1 is equal to m, which is my slope, times x minus x1. Now this should look very familiar because it is just a variation of the slope formula. Okay, so my y minus, I'm going to go ahead and use this point right here, y minus y1, which is going to be -4, is equal to, just found my slope, -6/5 times x minus 1. The only thing is this whole minus over here, minus, I'm just going to change it to this. So it could be the same thing as y plus 4 is equal to -6/5 times x minus 1. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do the other one, so I'll go ahead and just do this one right here. Y minus 2 is equal to -6/5 times x minus -4, which becomes y minus 2 is equal to -6/5 x plus 4. This is the second point. I'm using the -4. I'm using this point right here. Okay, so either one of those would work. Point slope form is a little bit more efficient than slope intercept form just because it's quicker. You don't need to find the y-intercept. So writing an equation in slope intercept form, well, once you go to point slope form, all we need to know is the y-intercept. I already have my slope. My slope is going to be slope intercept form is y is equal to mx plus b. I already know my slope because I already found it, so I'm just going to replace that with m with that plus b. And you actually have a couple different options here. If you want to find b, since I already gave you a point of 1, -4, you can actually put in 1 and -4 for y, and then algebraically manipulate the equation for b, or because I already have point slope form and I know that the y-intercept is when x is 0, I can actually take this 0 and put it in right there, and it'll solve for the y value. And then I can do it that way and find the y-intercept as well. So either way would work. I'm going to go ahead and do using my point slope form. I actually oftentimes use point slope form to find my y-intercept because you can always just do the third way is do the distributive property and then combine like terms and move the -2 over to the other side. You can do it with the top one. You can do it with this one too and get the same answer. Okay, so I am running out of room, so I'm going to go ahead and switch slides so we have a little bit more workspace here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take this one. Okay. So this is my point slope form that I found earlier, so I'm going to go ahead and do substitute in 0 to find the y-intercept. So I get y minus 2 is equal to negative 6/5 times 0 plus 4. Okay, and then from here I get y minus 2 is equal to negative 6/5 times 4, because 0 plus 4 is 4, and then I get y minus 2 is equal to negative 24/5. Alright, because I'm multiplying fraction here. And then I add 2 to both sides. And I get y is equal to, if you don't want, you can change it into a decimal value if you want. I can just do it like this. Change 2 over 1. So I get negative 24/5 plus adding fractions, I need the same denominator, so times 5 times 5, I get 10/5, which is the same thing as 2. I add them together, y is equal to negative 24 plus 10 is negative 14/5. And that is my y-intercept. I get 0, negative 14/5. And there's my y-intercept. Okay. So going back to this one right here, I get y is equal to negative 6/5 minus 14/5. And put my x right there, and there is my slope-intercept form. Actually, there's 3 ways that you can do this. It's really up to how you want to do it, but you got to make sure that you got to test it with the x value as being 0. Okay. And another way to test it is obviously taking one of your points that I gave you, like 2 right here. I can actually put the 2 in for, or excuse me, negative 4 right here, put in negative 4 for x and do the math on the right hand side, and it should output as 2. Okay, standard form. Okay, so standard form, that is going to be ax plus by is equal to c, where a has to be positive and it has to be a whole number. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my slope-intercept form. Let's just try that one. My slope-intercept form was y is equal to negative 6/5 x minus 14/5. To change this into standard form, I just take this entire quantity right here and move it to the other side by doing its inverse operation, which I get 6/5 x plus y is equal to negative 14/5. If you guys change that into a decimal, that would be negative 2.8, which is fine too. And see, a is positive. I got it, a is positive, but now it's not a whole number. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the denominator, and it's 5, and I'm going to make it a multiple of that. So I'm going to multiply this entire equation by 5. Now, if later on, if a was negative and you want to make it positive, you just multiply by a negative number. So do the distributive property here. 6/5 times 5 is going to be 6x. 5 times y is positive 5y. 5 times negative 14/5 is negative 14. And there is my standard form. Okay. If my point that I gave you earlier was 1, negative 4, or negative 4, 2. Once you get your standard form, you should be able to put in 6 times 1. 1 is x plus 5 times negative 4, and you should get negative 14. In this case, you do. Both sides equals negative 14. So I know that this checks out as being my standard form. And this is the same thing with slope-intercept form and point slope form. Because if you have all these forms and you have an input and output, aka your ordered pairs, then you can check your work after you've writing the different formula or the different equations for it. Okay. Alright guys, I hope that helps with that